What if I told you that one of the most popular fitness promises you've heard for years is a complete lie? For decades, people have been told that gaining just a single pound of muscle could magically burn up to 100 extra calories a day, even while you're doing nothing, just sitting on the couch, scrolling your phone or binge-watching your favorite show. Sounds like the ultimate fat-melting shortcut, right? The idea that muscle secretly turns your body into a furnace, torching calories around the clock. But here's the shocking truth. The numbers don't add up. Science paints a very different picture, one that flips this muscle myth completely upside down. And once you see the reality, you'll realize why so many people are wasting time chasing results that simply don't exist, and what they should really be focusing on instead. Welcome to the Wellness Way. In today's video, we're pulling back the curtain on the truth about muscle, metabolism, and fat loss. And I promise, what you learn here might just change how you train forever. Before we dive in, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss future videos packed with insights to help you take control of your health. I still remember the first time I heard it. Someone at the gym told me, with absolute confidence, that if I could just gain a pound of muscle, my body would automatically burn an extra 50 to 100 calories every single day, without me having to lift another weight, go for another run, or even get off the couch. At first, it sounded like a golden ticket. Who wouldn't want their body to quietly torch fat while they're binge-watching Netflix or scrolling on their phone? The idea was intoxicating, and honestly, I believed it. For years, this muscle myth has been repeated by trainers, fitness magazines, and even some so-called experts. It promised a shortcut that seemed almost too good to be true. Build muscle, and your body becomes a 24/7 fat-burning machine. But here's where reality hits hard. That promise doesn't stand up to science. Why the myth sounds so good? The reason this myth caught fire is obvious. It's simple, it's appealing, and it gives people hope. Everyone wants results without endless grind. So the thought that you could hack your metabolism by adding muscle was irresistible. And I'll admit, I wanted it to be true. I wanted to believe that all the sweat, the sore muscles, and the late-night protein shakes would turn me into a calorie-burning furnace without me even trying. But deep down, there was always a little doubt. Could it really be that easy? Could 1 pound of tissue really flip a switch in my body's metabolism that dramatically? The cold, hard numbers. When I finally dug into the research, the truth slapped me in the face. Muscle does burn more calories than fat, yes, but not anywhere near the magical numbers we've been sold. A pound of fat sitting quietly under your skin or wrapped around your organs burns just 2 to 4.5 calories a day. Not much at all. It's like having a savings account that charges you a tiny maintenance fee, barely noticeable. Muscle, on the other hand, is more active. It's constantly repairing itself, pumping ions across cell membranes and running tiny power plants called mitochondria. That takes energy, even at rest. But how much? About 6 to 7 calories per pound per day. That's it. Let that sink in. 1 pound of muscle doesn't burn 100 calories at rest, it burns closer to 7. Gain 5 pounds of muscle, which is no small achievement, and you're only burning about 30 to 35 extra calories a day. That's less than the calories in a single Oreo cookie. When I realized that, I actually laughed out loud. All those years of hearing about the magic calorie burn from muscle, and it turns out to be less than a snack. The Oreo test, I like to think of it as the Oreo test. Imagine you've worked hard, you've lifted weights, you've gained 5 solid pounds of muscle. You feel stronger, more confident. But when you look at the actual energy cost, your body is only burning enough extra calories to cover about half an Oreo cookie each day. Half a cookie. That's the grand metabolic bonus you've earned. Over a year, yes, it adds up. 30 calories a day becomes around 11,000 calories in 12 months, which is roughly equal to the energy stored in 3 pounds of fat. That's not nothing. But it's nowhere close to the massive life-changing boost people imagine when they buy into the myth. Why the numbers get twisted. So how did we get from 7 calories to 100 calories in the first place? The confusion comes from mixing up resting metabolism with what happens during and after exercise. Muscle is very active when you're moving it. During a tough lifting session, you can burn hundreds of calories, and after that workout, your metabolism stays elevated for hours as your body repairs tissue and replenishes energy stores. This is called the afterburn effect, and it's real. After an intense workout, your resting metabolic rate can stay 4 to 7% higher for up to 48 hours. That's the real metabolic magic, but it comes from activity, not from just having muscle sitting there. Somewhere along the line, marketers and lazy interpretations of research mashed these numbers together, and the inflated claim was born. What muscle really gives you. Here's the twist. Just because muscle doesn't burn as many calories at rest as we hoped, doesn't mean building muscle is pointless. In fact, the real benefits are far more powerful than any 50 to 100 calorie per pound promise. Think about it. When you add muscle, you get stronger. That strength allows you to push heavier weights, perform more challenging workouts, and sustain higher intensities. Let's say your squat goes from 135 pounds to 225 pounds. That upgrade in strength means your workout now burns significantly more calories, sometimes 50 to 100 extra in a single session. That's the equivalent of the entire myth, but compressed into one workout. And because you can train harder and longer, that effect compounds over time. In other words, muscle doesn't just burn calories quietly in the background. It multiplies the calorie burn you're capable of during activity. My personal wake-up call. When I finally understood this, my perspective shifted completely. Instead of chasing the fantasy of a fat-melting machine, I started appreciating muscle for what it really is. A tool that lets me live a stronger, healthier life, and a tool that supercharges every bit of activity I do. And here's the funny thing. Once I let go of the unrealistic promise, I actually felt more motivated. I stopped looking for shortcuts and started focusing on consistency, lifting regularly, pushing my limits, eating with intention, and embracing the long game. The results came more steadily, and they felt more satisfying because they were grounded in reality, not hype. The bottom line. So no, 1 pound of muscle won't torch 100 calories a day while you lounge on the couch. It's more like 7. But the true power of muscle isn't in passive calorie burn, it's in the doors it opens. Stronger muscles mean better workouts, more endurance, higher calorie expenditure when you're active, and ultimately a healthier, more capable body. And honestly, that's a much better deal than chasing a myth. When I first started digging into the difference between fat and muscle, I expected it to be straightforward. Fat is bad, muscle is good. That's the story we've been told, right? But once I looked closer, the truth was much more complicated and way more interesting. Fat isn't the villain. We think, let's start with fat. Most of us picture it as the enemy, the thing that keeps us from looking the way we want in the mirror. We imagine fat as lazy, hanging around our midsection, doing nothing useful. But that's only part of the story. Fat actually serves critical purposes. Subcutaneous fat, the soft layer under your skin, protects you, insulates you, and stores energy. Visceral fat, the deeper fat around your organs, can be dangerous in excess, but even it has a role in cushioning and supporting those vital systems. Fat also plays a part in hormone production, which means without it, your body wouldn't function properly. The problem isn't that we have fat. The problem is when we have too much of it. And here's the kicker. Fat is not very metabolically active. A pound of fat only burns about 2 to 4.5 calories per day at rest. That means you could be carrying 20 pounds of fat and it would only account for maybe 40 to 90 calories burned each day. Not nothing, but not a calorie inferno either. I remember staring at those numbers for the first time and thinking, so this stuff that I've been blaming for everything is basically just sitting there? It's like a storage locker for energy? And that's exactly what it is. Fat is an energy savings account. It holds onto your reserves until you really need them, but it doesn't spend much on its own. Muscle, the busy worker. Now compare that with muscle. Muscle is alive in a way fat isn't. It's constantly buzzing in the background, even when you're doing absolutely nothing. Each fiber is repairing, maintaining, pumping ions and fueling tiny mitochondria. At rest, a pound of muscle burns about 6 to 7 calories per day, 2 or 3 times more than fat. That sounds great until you do the math, because while 6 to 7 is more than 2 to 4.5, it's still a very small number. If you gained 5 pounds of muscle, you'd only be burning an extra 30 to 35 calories a day at rest. That's not even a whole cookie. When I first realized that, I couldn't decide whether to be disappointed or amused. It shattered the fat-melting muscle fantasy I'd been sold, but it also opened my eyes. Muscle might not be a calorie furnace while you're sitting still, but its true magic shows up when you use it. The misunderstanding. So why do so many people believe that 1 pound of muscle burns 50 to 100 calories? The misunderstanding comes from confusing resting metabolism with exercise metabolism. When you lift weights, your muscles contract and demand energy. That's when calorie burn skyrockets. A single resistance training session can torch 200 to 400 calories or more, depending on how hard you go. And when the workout ends, the story isn't over. Your metabolism stays elevated for hours, sometimes even a couple of days. This is the afterburn effect, officially called excess post-exercise oxygen consumption. After a tough workout, your body is busy repairing tissue, replenishing energy stores, and rebuilding protein. All of that requires extra oxygen and extra energy. That's why your resting metabolic rate can temporarily rise 4 to 7% for 16 to 48 hours. That's the real reason building muscle matters, not because it sits there burning huge amounts of calories at rest, but because it makes your workouts more powerful and your recovery more demanding. Somewhere along the line, those numbers got blended together. People took the calories burned during and after workouts and pretended they were happening all the time, every day, even while you were resting. And so the myth was born. What happens when you build muscle? Here's what actually happens when you build muscle. You gain the ability to push harder, you lift heavier weights, perform more repetitions, and handle greater intensity. That directly translates into more calories burned during workouts. Think about it like this. If your squat increases from 135 pounds to 225 pounds, the same exercise now costs your body significantly more energy. You're pushing harder, using more muscles and creating more demand. That single workout could burn an extra 50 to 100 calories compared to when you were weaker. And that's just one session. Over weeks and months, that adds up dramatically. That's why I see muscle as an amplifier. It doesn't just quietly tick away a few extra calories while you sit on the couch. It multiplies your calorie burning potential every time you move. My shift in perspective. For a long time, I obsessed over my resting metabolic rate. I thought the secret to fat loss was somehow tricking my body into burning more calories while I did nothing. But chasing that shortcut only left me frustrated. When I finally accepted the truth, I stopped seeing muscle as a passive calorie burner and started appreciating it as a performance enhancer. Building muscle didn't mean my metabolism would skyrocket while I slept. It meant I could train harder, recover stronger, and keep improving. That shift made me feel empowered instead of misled. And here's the most surprising part. Once I let go of the myth, I became more consistent. Instead of chasing magic numbers, I focused on the process. I lifted weights regularly. I challenged myself to get stronger week by week. I paid attention to how my body felt, not just how many calories it supposedly burned at rest. And slowly, the changes became real and sustainable. The bigger picture. The truth about fat and muscle is both simpler and more profound than the myths. Fat is storage. Muscle is potential. Neither is inherently good or bad, it's about balance. Too much fat can harm your health, but without any fat, your body can't function. Muscle won't melt fat away while you sleep, but it gives you the strength and resilience to transform your body through action. That's the lesson I wish I'd understood years ago. The magic isn't in some inflated calorie number. It's in the way muscle allows you to live, train, and grow stronger. It's in the way fat, even though we curse it, teaches us about energy balance and the consequences of our choices. The takeaway. So next time you hear someone promise that muscle will turn you into a fat-burning machine, remember this. The truth is more nuanced, but also more empowering. Don't waste time waiting for your resting metabolism to do the work. Build muscle because it makes you stronger, healthier, and more capable. Use that muscle to push harder in your workouts and the calorie burn will take care of itself. And if you're anything like me, once you stop chasing shortcuts, you'll realize that the real satisfaction isn't in burning a few extra calories. While you rest, it's in what your body can do when you truly put it to work. By the time I uncovered the truth about muscle and metabolism, I had a choice to make. I could either feel disappointed that muscle wasn't the fat-melting machine I once believed, or I could look deeper at what this really meant for my health and training. And honestly, that choice changed everything. Why false expectations can hold you back for years, I bought into the hype. I thought if I just gained enough muscle, my body would magically burn fat on autopilot. It was comforting to imagine that I could fix my metabolism once and for all. But every time the results didn't match the promise, I felt like a failure. The problem wasn't me, it was the myth. By expecting muscle to do the work while I rested, I overlooked the real power it gave me when I was active. That's why so many people give up. They're told half-truths, they measure progress against unrealistic standards, and when they fall short, they quit. When I finally let go of that fantasy, I realized something freeing. I didn't need muscle to burn fat while I slept. I needed muscle to help me live better while I was awake. What building muscle really does. So let's cut to the chase. What does muscle really do for you beyond those 6 or 7 calories per pound at rest? It makes your workouts more effective. Stronger muscles mean you can lift heavier, run faster, and move longer. That means more calories burned during each session, more progress over time. It boosts the afterburn effect. Intense workouts trigger extra calorie burn for hours afterward. More muscle means more repair, more protein synthesis, and more energy spent bringing your body back to balance. It shapes your body. This one is personal. The mirror doesn't lie. Building muscle transforms your physique in a way that fat loss alone never could. It protects your health. Muscle supports your joints, improves posture, and even helps regulate blood sugar. It's not just about looks, it's about longevity. It fuels momentum. Nothing feels better than getting stronger. That sense of progress builds confidence and keeps you motivated to keep going. When I reframed muscle as a tool instead of a miracle, it suddenly became more valuable, not less. The balance between diet and training. Here's another truth that took me years to accept. Muscle alone won't save you if your diet is out of control. You can squat twice your body weight, but if you're constantly overeating, the scale isn't going to budge in the direction you want. For me, this was the hardest pill to swallow. I wanted training to be enough. I didn't want to think about calories, macros, or portion sizes. But the reality is, fat loss comes from creating a calorie deficit. Muscle helps, exercise helps, but diet is the steering wheel. The turning point came when I stopped pitting diet and training against each other. Instead of asking, which is more important, I started asking, how can they work together? That shift changed my results completely. By fueling my body with the right foods and challenging it with the right workouts, I finally created a system that worked with me instead of against me. The emotional side of training. Let's be honest, this journey isn't just physical, it's emotional. When I discovered the truth about muscle's calorie burn, part of me felt cheated. But another part of me felt relieved. I no longer had to cling to a myth. I could focus on what really mattered. And here's the emotional payoff that nobody talks about. When you train for strength and health, not just calorie burn, you start to enjoy the process more. You stop obsessing over every tiny number and start noticing the wins that actually matter, like feeling more energetic, sleeping better, and realizing you can carry your groceries in one trip without breaking a sweat. Practical ways to apply this. So how do you put all this into action? Here's what worked for me. Lift consistently. It doesn't have to be extreme. 3 to 4 times a week of strength training can change your body. Mix in cardio. Don't neglect your heart. Cardio helps create calorie deficits and improves endurance. Prioritize recovery. Sleep, rest, and nutrition matter just as much as the workouts. Be patient. Results don't happen overnight. Think months and years, not days and weeks. Stay curious. Don't just follow fitness myths. Learn the science, experiment with your own body, and adjust as you go. The funny thing is, once I stopped chasing shortcuts, my progress sped up. I was no longer waiting for muscle to burn fat magically. I was using muscle to power the lifestyle that actually led to fat loss. Connecting the dots. When I step back, the lesson is clear. Fat and muscle aren't enemies. They're part of the same system. Fat is stored energy, waiting to be used. Muscle is the engine that allows you to tap into that energy. But the key isn't having more storage or a bigger engine. It's how you drive the car. That's what I wish more people understood. You don't need myths to motivate you. You need the truth. And the truth is that muscle is not a magic furnace. It's a tool that gives you the ability to shape your health through action. A question for you. So now I want to turn it back to you. If you knew that muscle doesn't melt fat while you sit on the couch, but that it empowers you to burn more when you train, how would that change your approach? Would you feel discouraged, or would you feel motivated to push harder in your workouts? I know where I stand. For me, letting go of the myth gave me the freedom to embrace the process, to train smarter, to eat with purpose, and to appreciate every rep and every set for what it really was. An investment in my future self. When I look back at my journey, I realize how much time I wasted chasing shortcuts. I wanted the magic fix, the hidden trick, the muscle equals fat burning machine myth to be true. It would have been so much easier if simply gaining a few pounds of muscle could erase years of bad habits. But that's not how the body works. And strangely enough, I'm grateful for that. Because once I stopped believing the hype, I started respecting the process. I began to appreciate that building muscle isn't about tricking your metabolism. It's about building a stronger, healthier version of yourself. Muscle doesn't work like a silent calorie incinerator. It works like a partner. It gives you the ability to push harder in workouts, to recover faster, to improve your posture, to protect your joints, and to create the kind of lifestyle where fat loss and health improvements happen naturally. The biggest lesson for me was this: stop obsessing over what your body burns at rest. Those numbers, 2 calories per pound of fat, 7 calories per pound of muscle, are interesting, but they aren't what transforms your body. What transforms your body is what you do when you're awake, moving, and making choices. Your workouts, your nutrition, your sleep, your consistency, those are the things that truly matter. I also learned that disappointment can be a gift. When I found out the muscle myth wasn't true, I could have given up. But instead, I took it as a wake-up call. I asked myself, am I willing to work for this? Am I willing to train, to learn, to stay patient, and to trust the process? The answer was yes. And that mindset shift made all the difference. In practice, this means I now train with intention. I lift weights not because I think each pound of muscle is secretly burning 100 calories a day, but because I know that strength gives me freedom. It gives me the freedom to run, to carry, to play, to live without fear of injury, and to keep improving year after year. That's a much bigger payoff than any inflated calorie claim. So here's what I'd leave you with. Stop searching for the magic hack. There isn't one. But there is a clear, sustainable path. Build strength, eat with awareness, move consistently, and give your body the respect it deserves. The results won't come overnight, but they will come, and they'll last. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Do you believe strength training should be about burning calories, or do you see it as something bigger, like building resilience and health for the long run? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'd really love to see your perspective. And if you found value in this video, don't forget to subscribe to The Wellness Way. Your support gives us the motivation to keep creating content that challenges myths and shares the truth about health and fitness.